Hello and welcome back to India on 99.94. I'm your host, Nikesh Ragani, commentator and broadcaster, and my co-host alongside, as always, Sarah Waris of Wisden. Sarah, we've got a lot to rattle through in today's episode. We're going to start with the Women's Asia Cup, of course, and India have played 3 times since we last spoke. Of course, they played Pakistan, lost to Pakistan, won a couple of games in and around that as well. So we'll discuss that in a lot more detail as well. We'll discuss the experimentation that's been going on for the women's team at the Asia Cup as well. And then we'll also be taking a look at the men's ODI series against South Africa and, seeing if anybody really cares about that or not, or if it's proved to be useful in any way or not. But thanks again for listening. We are, of course, your home for India content here on 99.94. So, Sarah, let's kick off then. Women's Asia Cup. It's obviously a great thing that it's happening. India seem to be treating it a little bit like a warm-up for next year's T20 World Cup. Let's just sort of put it into perspective as to what has happened in the last week or so. So Pakistan lost to Thailand, which was a big shock. Although Thailand are a decent side on their day. They've got some useful players, but still a big shock. The next day, Pakistan then beat India. And then India go on and thump Thailand, bowling them out for 37 and chasing down in 6 overs. So it's all a bit weird, isn't it, so far?
Yeah, I think probably, last episode you spoke about how India should easily defeat Pakistan. I think it's the jinx of that.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Nothing else. Yeah.
It's my fault. I wasn't the only one saying that, though. It's just their 3rd ever victory against India in any form of cricket. All have come in T20Is, actually. India have won 10 of the meetings. Pakistan have won just the 3, and India have won every single time they've met in ODIs as well, and Pakistan with a big fat 0 there. So, I wasn't the only one saying that. It was to be expected. Let's talk about that game then in more detail. I mean, look, it obviously hurts every time India lose to Pakistan. Any Indian cricket fan will see that as the marquee game in any tournament. What was going on there, though? I mean, the experimentation with the batting order for a start. We've heard the excuses coming out of the camp, and Ramesh Bawa and Harmanpreet herself just sort of alluding to the fact that, look, we want to give other players up the order to have a chance of taking on responsibility in pressure situations. Was that the wrong match to experiment in? Any India-Pakistan match surely cannot be seen as a warm-up. I remember the men warmed up for the T20, or the World T20 as it was called then, back in 2009 in England. And they had an India-Pakistan warm-up game for that. And neither side took it as a warm-up. It was all-out war. It was, full stadium at the Oval, and it was as intense as a competitive match should be. So was it the wrong match for the women to experiment in? And, I mean, even if you are going to experiment, Harmanpreet Kaur at number 7, Risha Ghosh at number 8, that's taking it a bit too far, isn't it?
And Shafali Verma didn't play. In the next match, she came in and she scored 55 and even picked up a couple of wickets with the ball. So,
Yeah.
So Shafali Verma didn't play. I'm a little on the fence regarding this. Yeah, while I know, the final spot had not yet been sealed, so there was a lot to play for. It's obviously against Pakistan, but it wasn't a dead rubber, so to say. No match against Pakistan is a dead rubber, but yeah, India had not finalized their spot in the top 4. So, it was a lot to play for, but I still get why they, pushed Hemalata, Pooja Vastrakar up the order. They used this as kind of a live playground to test different players, because we've seen in the past that Harmanpreet Kaur, it's always been the top 3 or the top 4 doing the job for India. Jemima, Harmanpreet, and Shafali, or also she's been inconsistent, but yeah, we've seen her doing that, and Harmanpreet Kaur. And then, just recently in the Commonwealth Games, we saw the the top, like the lower middle order, they just failed and India lost the match. So I do understand where they were coming from. Maybe, the thinking was they should get over the line against Bangladesh and they should get over the line against Thailand in their remaining two matches. So it wasn't a do or die, so to say. So, just pushing the inexperienced batters up the order and just throw them in pressure situation. It didn't work out, but I do somehow see why they did it, though Ramesh Pawar has got a lot of criticism for it. But again, as I said, I'm on the edge regarding this because if they really wanted to try out other players, why throw Richa Ghosh at number 8? Because, she's not someone like Harmanpreet Kaur who has plenty of experience. So, she is someone who needs experience, and she is the one I hope is the one to take Indian cricket forward in the next few years. So if that really was the mindset, Richa Ghosh should have come up the order. Like that's what I believe.
Yeah, I mean, Richa Ghosh nearly won the game for India in the end, but just had too much to do because of the situation she found herself in with all those other wickets falling, and not just wickets falling at the top of the order, but the scoring rate wasn't great either. So there were lots of balls chewed up by the rest of them. And look, it didn't work out. I get what you're saying, but you don't do that against Pakistan, surely. You pick and choose when you do these kinds of things. And I mean, they could have done it against England, couldn't they, in the bilateral series? It means a lot less. This is, after all, Sarah, this is a major tournament. And India have a recent record of falling at the final hurdle in major world events. This isn't a world event, but it is almost on that level. It's all of the best in Asia. And it's, they're obviously still with a great chance of winning. They're still the favourites to win the Women's Asia Cup. They're through to the knockouts and they should get there. But you don't take any risks in a tournament like this, do you? Sure. I mean, they need to win this, and they need to win it convincingly.
Yeah, they do. But then again, I'm on the fence, but slightly tilted towards in favor of them. Just imagine if someone like a Hemalata or a Vastrakar had actually pulled this off, or Richa Ghosh had pulled this off. Just imagine the confidence that they could have received that, okay, they've done it against Pakistan. In an important game, multinational event. So, it's kind of sacrificing a game. I know it wasn't the best pick doing that against Pakistan, but it's sacrificing a game hopefully for long-term benefits, because that is something that has come back to haunt India time and again. And I'm not really against this move as many people have, like, they keep talking about. So I understand why they did it, and yeah.
Well, hopefully it'll give those players at least that taste of what it's like to be in those pressure situations at the top of the order. And obviously they didn't deliver, but hopefully it will stand them in good stead going forward. Look, it's not all doom and gloom. We'll take a short break here. And on the other side, we'll discuss the couple of wins India have had since then.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So the Pakistan defeat aside, Sarah, India, of course, beating Bangladesh the day after that is great, isn't it? Sometimes in these T20 tournaments, just to have back-to-back games and, once you've had a defeat, just that immediate opportunity to go and win the next game. And they did so against Bangladesh, and they did so very well, albeit without Harmanpreet Kaur, who didn't play against Thailand either. Are you surprised at the fact that she's decided now to take a rest, or the team management have decided to rest her?
again, I see why they're doing it. Just for what if Harmanpreet Kaur, God forbid, gets injured in a high pressure match or in the semi final or the final. At least Smriti Mandana would have had some experience of leading India in these not pressure matches, but yeah, against different opponents. So again, not really against that move totally.
You know, I'm going to compare it with the men here, right? You see,
Yeah.
I get what you mean, and India are huge favourites in the Asia Cup. Not just favourites, huge favourites. But the fact is that they're not a side that has been winning silverware consistently all the time. They're not like the Australia side of the late 90s, early 2000s. They're not like the West Indies of like the 70s and 80s and into the early 90s. They're not dominating world cricket or even Asian cricket to that extent where I feel they can go into a tournament. This is a tournament
Yeah.
to win a trophy. It's a big deal, really, to lift that piece of silverware for this Indian side who haven't managed to get over the line in the last few years when they've been in positions to do so. It's not quite. I mean, what would you say if the men decided to drop Rohit Sharma for like a Sri Lanka game, or when they were playing Pakistan in the first group game, which was quite meaningless. Let's face it, they were both going to beat Hong Kong, and they were both going to get through to the next stage. So, what would you say if they were chasing like 150 odd, and then they decided to put Kohli down at 7 and Rohit down at 8 and open with, I don't know, whoever it might be, just open with DK for fun, or you can't do it in the people would be burning effigies and stuff in the streets if that happened with the men's team. So that's the kind of comparison I'm giving. Of course, in the men's tournament, it's a lot more even in terms
Yeah.
of the teams and who has a chance to win the tournament. But India was still big favourites going into the men's Asia Cup, and it's the couple of matches basically threw it for them. But if you look at it overall, they've still got the best side out of all the Asian men teams. So do you just get the other side of the point that there's a time and place for this? This is a big tournament. It's not a bilateral. So why not do it against England? They toured England. They were in pressure situations there on occasion. Why not then do it? Is that more important? It seems to me as though they're sort of saying that bilateral series, 3-match series, was more important. And even the ODIs, you could have done it there as well. It's still pressure, right? Different game, but still similar kind of pressure. So 6 matches to be able to do it in England. But then you decide to take that extremely seriously because it's England. And then you're almost disrespecting the rest of the Asian nations by saying, well, this is just like, we're just going to experiment. Maybe when it comes to the semis and the final, we'll just play how we should be playing. But other than that, we'll just go with the flow and mix it up a bit. Do you get what I mean? That disrespect, perhaps?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I understand what you mean. But, the fact that India I'm talking from the long term point of view, you're talking about winning this Asia Cup and all that. But from what I'm talking about the more long term point of view, where the main goal is for India to win a silverware. Like in the world stage, India have already won 6 Asia Cups, but has that brought any change to how cricket is viewed in India or how the BCCI treat women's cricket? I don't really think so. So they might win the Asia Cup, and possibly if that match was a do or die, that wouldn't have happened. But I think the main goal is that go and do well in the T20 World Cup next year or in the 50 over World Cup, and they're making the side for that because they know that win will be more crucial for India than it will be like winning this Asia Cup, if you know what I mean. This win will not really change a lot of things, how BCCI or the fans treat women's cricket, but possibly, they've identified these weak links, that, the middle order is the weak link, and, you have to possibly give them more experience and throw them into more pressure situations, so that the main goal, they've not yet won a silverware in any ICC event. So, how they can bring that, how they can change that. And then the attitude, and, okay, a women's IPL has been announced, but that's such a, just for the sake of it, kind of an event that's been announced because there was a lot of pressure on them, etc., etc. But that win will change just the complexion of women's sport. Just reaching the final in 2017, they didn't even win it, but it just changed the complexion of women's cricket. So I think that's where what they're thinking of. Okay, this Asia Cup win, yeah, I agree what you're saying, that if Rohit Sharma had done that, he would have got a lot of criticism. But again, you can't really say that Bangladesh women's team are at the same level as the Bangladesh men's team. So there is that sort of, difference in competitiveness
Yeah.
also. So
I get what you're
think,
saying,
yeah.
and look, maybe all I'm saying is they could have been more subtle about it, rather
Yeah.
than just making sweeping changes against Pakistan in particular. Just like make the odd one, like maybe push Harmanpreet down to number 5 and put somebody else ahead of her. There are subtle ways to do these things, right? You don't want to go all out and drop Shafali and then change your whole sort of numbers 2 to 6 so dramatically in an important match, and with all those bragging rights at stake as well. But look, they're top of the table. They've done well in the last couple of matches. Performance-wise, in terms of, I say some of the players who have been given those opportunities, but also one player who has been given so many opportunities and hasn't really delivered of late, Shafali Verma, finding a bit of form now. Okay, against Thailand, chasing 38. She got out cheaply, but other than that, she's been in pretty decent form, a half century as well, which is always good to see. And she seems to be striking the ball well and playing with a lot of confidence. So that surely is a great thing, isn't it, for Indian cricket?
Yeah, and also Richa Ghosh, just how she's so good against spinners, she's good against the quicker bowlers also. And I was just looking at some stats. Her overall strike rate is not that impressive. I think it's in the 120s, which is decent for women cricketers, but doesn't stand out. But in 7 of her 19 T20I innings, she has a strike rate of more than 150, which is, brilliant for men's cricket also, and it's outstanding for anyone in women's cricket to have that kind of consistency and fearlessness, especially the fact that she comes in, she doesn't come at the top of the order, unlike Shafali Verma. She bats at 6, 7, even lower sometimes, as she did against Pakistan, where she batted with a strike rate of 226 in 13 balls. And yeah, you were right, she could have won India the match if she had batted up the order. So, and it was just very surprising that she was not picked in the Commonwealth Games squad. I think we spoke about this earlier, where even Mandana, she, there was an incident where she told one of her 100 teammates that she was very surprised Richa Ghosh was not picked. So I just hope that she is, backed. And Shafali, along with Richa Ghosh, today Mandana played her 100th match, and they presented her that, that cap and the memento. So it was very heartening to see, these youngsters coming up and the team regarding them with so much respect. Yeah, so.
And Shafali as well. We forget, don't we? She's 18 years old. 18.
Yeah.
She's already scored 1,000 T20 international runs. And that's, the most that any teenager has got, the only teenager to have 1,000 runs as a teenager in this form. So she's still smashing records, but we just forget she came in at the age of 15, 16, and we almost see her as one of the more experienced members of this side. But we've got to remember she's still developing as a person, as a cricketer, and it's not an easy time of life in general, really, when you're at that age. So you're maturing, you're becoming an adult. It's a big gear change in life in general. And for her to be thrown in just like Sachin Tendulkar was thrown in at the age of 15 in first class and then 16 at international, it's not always easy. And you might have the odd blip. But, the talent is there, and that is great to see as well. What do you make of Meghna then at the top of the order? They've sort of experimented with these different opening combinations at the top. She's done okay as a sort of backup reserve option to open the batting if something else was to go wrong with Shafali or Smriti. Do you think she's sort of cemented that spot as the backup opener?
I think she's done decent, but then India also have Gemma Rodriguez who can potentially open. So, yeah, they would want to give her a longer rope. And she's been decent, nothing to complain about. Against New Zealand, we had seen, how she could bat that more aggressively and go after the quicker bowlers in different conditions. Like conditions in New Zealand were obviously very different. So she has a lot of talent. She's pretty young, and yeah, I just hope that at least India keep giving these consistent chances to players. Like before the series, we had spoken about Kiran Navgire. I am kind of disappointed that they've not, given her a longer rope. And yeah, if you wanted to rest Harmanpreet, at least you could have, just thrown Kiran Navgire up the order, because we've seen what she can do in domestic and even in the women's T20 challenge. So I think that's been a little disappointing for me that they've not really stuck with her as much.
Yeah, fair enough. But as we say, India top of the group as things stand, and through to the semi-finals, and then we'll see how they go, and of course we'll react to anything that happens over in the Asia Cup in future episodes as well. We're going to take another short break here, and on the back of that, we'll discuss the men's ODI series against South Africa.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app, and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So, Sarah, I was at a wedding yesterday, and all anyone wanted to talk to me about was either Premier League football, or most people, it was an Indian wedding, the T20 World Cup. The fact that India were playing South Africa on the day of that wedding didn't make a difference to anybody. No one was interested. For India, it's a very meaningless ODI series. For South Africa, they've got, 10 of their 15 T20 World Cup squad playing in this ODI series, just days out from a T20 World Cup, thousands of miles away in Australia. It's just weird, isn't it? It's really, really weird. And I don't know about you, but watch it after seeing so much T20 cricket and looking forward to the World Cup as well. Even the women have been playing a lot of T20 cricket. Watching ODIs is a bit like, it puts you to sleep after a while, isn't it?
That was just very funny. Like the first ODI in Lucknow, so it was 40 overs. And even Murli Kartik, he was doing commentary. So there was this whole thing with Sanju Samson and Avish Khan and the strike and all that. So Murli Kartik, I think it was in the last over where he said that if only Sanju had more strike in the 19th over. And then he corrected himself, and then he said, it's a T20 syndrome. And he was not the only one. Like my Twitter feed was filled with people who were saying 19th over and then correcting it, saying sorry, 39th. And even in Joy Bhattacharya's, someone replied to one of his tweets saying that, in the 19th over something, and he corrected it by saying, you mean the 39th over. So, it's just the T20I syndrome. And yeah, it's weird that India, so quality wise, it's not quality wise, but the regulars aren't there for India, but it's probably because ICC Super League points are at stake.
That's it.
Yeah.
That is the thing. And South Africa desperately need those points
Yeah.
because they've got a real chance of not qualifying for the World Cup as a result. So it's obviously India as hosts don't care even if they were to lose all their ODIs from now until the next World Cup. It doesn't matter, although they've probably got enough points as it is. But it's just weird. I mean, obviously the fact that India's best white ball players supposedly are all over in Australia, and they're sort of posting selfies. They're at the, I was going to say the WACA, but the Optus Stadium. They were watching England take on Australia in one of those warm-up games that they're playing. And a few of them were in the stadium. Ashwin posted a picture, I think it was. Yeah. And, I saw a picture today with Rohit and Rishabh and Surya Kumar, and I can't remember, there's a couple of other guys in some questionable gear that they're wearing. It was all very sort of throwback to the 90s, really baggy and sort of out there, sort of, I would say hip hop, but it wasn't kind of cool or trendy enough to be hip hop. It was more like white man's hip hop, like Vanilla Ice, kind of that kind of vibe going on there. Hope I'm not offending anybody by saying that, Vanilla Ice fans out there, but it was that kind of vibe. So they're all doing that. They're on holiday. They obviously played Western Australia, watched England play, some of them as well. So they're having a very different time of it.
Harshal Patel gave away 19 runs in the last over. So
against Western Australia.
But we'll talk about that later. But
well, look, I suppose what do you read into those games? But it's the same old situation, isn't it? Who do you turn to in the death? Yeah. And he is one of the options, and he's not delivering. So that is still a big area of concern, which we'll discuss more as we sort of head towards the days before India's first game at the T20 World Cup. But back to the ODIs then. So it's 1-1. Look, it was a great chase from India in the second game. Shreyas Iyer, once again in the runs in ODI cricket. His run is phenomenal in ODI cricket. I mean, what a player he is, looking ahead to that 2023 World Cup as well. Coming in at number 4-5 and just doing what he does and just playing proper cricket and scoring a decent rate always, just looking so assured. It's almost like when you have one of the more senior players coming in, like a Kohli or a Rohit or these guys, Surya Kumar now as well, you kind of have that confidence in them. And it's the same with Shreyas Iyer. You just expect him to score runs, don't you? And I suppose he is one of the shining lights coming out of this series for India. And actually, let me just, with that, you can't mention Shreyas and not mention Sanju Samson as well. I mean, the guy just never lets India down, does he?
Yeah, he doesn't. And again, why isn't he in the T20 World Cup squad? I saw a tweet, I think a few days ago from Ben Gardner. He's my colleague in Wisden. He said that pick Sanju Samson as Jasprit Bumrah's replacement, which wouldn't be,
do you,
if you think of it.
A lot of people have said that.
Yeah.
Do you have, not Sanju necessarily, but do you have to pick an extra bowler? Or do you have to pick a bowler to replace a bowler? You don't have to. You could go in with a different combination. You could pick an extra batter because...
This is not the sub rule in cricket, while playing. Like, you need a...
You might as well just pack your side with 8 batters, right? And just try and, if you're bowling first, chase down whatever they post, 250, whatever. If you, give yourself the best chance. And if you're batting first, then again, same thing. Just make sure you score well over 200 with that strong batting lineup. And then, it's almost like the India under Ganguly in ODI cricket when he sort of first took up the captaincy, his first 2 or 3 years of it. And they usually had like 1 or 2 decent bowlers at any time available to them. And the rest of it was just like, we'll wicket keep with Dravid, we'll bat Mohammad Kaif down at number 7. And then even at number 8, sometimes they used to pick an all-rounder. So, Robin Singh, even just before sort of Kaif and Yuvraj came in, used to come in at 7, 8 and, wasn't the greatest bowler, but, quite a decent bat coming in at those late stages. So it is a way to go. It is a way to go. But even regardless of replacing Bumrah,
Yeah.
is he good enough to just be a part of that side anyway, Sanju Samson? Yeah, this is a different
Yeah.
format, but he's done it in T20s, and he seems to have matured so much in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and yeah, he should have. Obviously, we've spoken about this. We had a whole episode on him and Prithvi Shaw. Why aren't they? Why aren't they there? So again, it's the same old debate that they should be there, but no one is going to listen to us. The only slight issue that I have, like very small thing which I picked up was, somehow his lack of game awareness in the first ODI when India needed. They could have easily won the match, but Avesh Khan was on strike and Ravi Bishnoi hogged the strike. And then, all the bowlers, they just kept taking on the strike. When, just there was this time when Avesh Khan ran a two. Why did he run a two? He's not a batter. Sanju Samson could have just said, just take a single and I'll finish off the game. And he almost took India close. He later on he said that it was just 2 shots for me. They fell short by 9 runs. So, if he would have won that game, he could have left a bigger mark with that win. That he is here. He knows how to bat with the tail enders, and he knows how to just finish off games. Also, something which the Kohlis and the Dhonis they mastered. So that's the only thing that stuck out for me in this series. As for Shreyas Iyer, do you think that there is a place for him when the regulars return also in the ODI side? Because KL Rahul can possibly play at 4 or 5 and Surya Kumar is
100.
there
He has
too.
to. He has to be in that side. There's no way. You're probably going to open with KL and Rohit. That's
think
probably the
Dhawan.
way.
I'm talking about ODIs. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I
but
think
do you-
Dhawan will be there. Because
They
now,
obviously the only reason that Dhawan
yeah.
is still even a part of any setup is because they are looking ahead to the 2023 World Cup. But no, you've got to. I don't know. The partnership has been so successful between himself and Rohit, but
But his strike
for the
rate is
team
just,
combination, I
yeah.
just think it's a better fit because they're going to play Rahul no matter what in the side, and to have him in at number 4, I just think Shreyas is a much better option, and then you've got Suryakumar Yadav to fit in there as well at probably 5.
Pant, I think, will play ODIs at least.
Bunt maybe
Hardik.
come in at Bunt and
Yeah.
but then Bunt and Hardik
Jadeja.
might come in 6, 7. Jadeja maybe 8.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players to fit in. I just love the way Shreyas Iyer is playing, and he's a man in such sublime form, and he's not playing here against South Africa's B side. This is a very, very strong South Africa bowling attack. The whole side is very strong, as we mentioned. It's basically almost their T20 World Cup squad who's playing in this ODI series, bar a couple. So he's done it. He's done it against the best in the world. He's been consistent. He's maybe drop KL then if you're going to play Shikhar Dhawan. He's not guaranteed, shouldn't be guaranteed a place in the side. It's just their thinking, isn't it? The selectors, that they think KL Rahul should be playing all 3 forms of cricket and he's the next big thing. But, the years keep ticking by, the months keep ticking by.
Yeah,
and
just Joe Root and KL Rahul are of the same under-19 badge. And
yeah, exactly.
you're
And
still waiting for him to...
exactly. We've
Yeah.
seen those similarities, those comparisons on social media, the graphics as to, the age between the two and the stats basically, and we're still waiting for KL Rahul to really take the world and be this sort of world-class player. He's shown glimpses of it in T20 cricket. He's got back his form, which we're grateful for. In ODI cricket, he's not really done it as consistently, and he's not a nailed down figure in that side. So yeah, maybe drop him, put Shikhar at the top with Rohit, Kohli 3, and then you could have Shreyas Iyer coming in at 4. Or mix it up, obviously. Just have him in that middle order, but sometimes, depending on the situation, you might mix it up and put Rishabh Pant up or whatever. But he's got to be in that starting 11. But look, it's good signs, isn't it, once again, that India have got that strength in depth, the men's team, that they can... All right, they might not win every tournament in the world with 3 teams, but like Hardik famously said, but it's almost there. They've got the strongest bench strength in the world, haven't they? They're the only team that consistently plays these limited overs series with B teams.
Yeah,
Nobody else
and
seems to do it.
just a random observation. We were talking about India's potential lineup, and we didn't even mention Prithvi Shaw or Sanju Samson there. So that shows
Well,
how
that's
strong the lineup is.
yeah.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah,
based on what they say. And look,
yeah.
just a quick one before we end. You mentioned Prithvi Shaw earlier and just now as well. We did the entire episode on him, and I got a direct message from somebody called the Statsman, who it was an
Yeah, even
Instagram
I got
DM, and
a message from him. Yeah.
I just checked it actually. It's about a week old. So apologies, Statsman. So he was interested in that and talked about his vulnerability against random off spinners like the Nabbies of this world and the Glenn Maxwell, not frontline off spinners. So interesting observation. So thank you for getting in touch regarding that. But yeah, Prithvi Shaw, obviously, look, if it was us, he'd be more in the mix probably. But we're just talking, I suppose, based on what the selectors have done in recent times. But yeah, great strength in depth, and long may it continue. And
And I
although
hope that strength translates to World Cup wins. It's no
of
use
course,
having strength
of
and
course,
then, yeah, just being a bilateral winning team, not a championship winning team.
yeah. Well, I've got a good feeling about the 2023 World Cup. I won't give all my predictions at the moment. There's plenty of time for that. But listen, it's about all we've got time for on this week's on today's episode. Rather, we'll be back later in the week, of course, discussing more from the world of Indian cricket. But thanks for joining us. Remember to rate and subscribe to either the podcast, the YouTube feed, or download the 99.94 app, and just get in touch with us on social media if there's anything else that you'd like us to talk about, anything that you liked that we've done. Thanks for all the comments, by the way, on Twitter about the Julan Goswami episode, which seemed to have gone down well, Sarah, didn't it?
Yeah.
And no surprise, it kind of
Heartening
just
to
takes
see.
care of
Yeah.
itself, talking about a bona fide legend, right?
Yeah. We talk about women's cricket and it not being, hyped as much and all. But yeah, most of whoever listened to the Julan episode liked it. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yep, thank you very much. So, as I say, that's all we've got time for. Thanks for listening, and join us next time.